Welcome to another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions podcast. My name is Molly McGrath, and I am the founder of this revolutionary office altering podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. If you're a long-time listener, welcome back. Either way, you can listen to our previously recorded podcasts in addition to check out our blog that we've been blogging since 2008 at hiringandempowering.com. Okie dokie. So I'm so excited for today's guest, attorney Jim Miskell. Hi, Jim.
Good morning, Molly.
Oh, I am so excited. So you and I have been working together for, 100 years?
Yeah, something like that.
And we're only 40. I'm so excited because this is really cool. So Jim and I have been coaching and been working with him, his team for many, many years now. And they are, you got to check out their website, Let's Talk Estate Planning. I'll put it in the show notes for you to just really see the essence of his law firm. Look at his blog. We were just talking. He's been blogging since 2014. And today's conversation that we are going to talk about is really about, I don't like the term, the new normal. I'm sick of hearing about pivoting and what have you. But last week we had a coaching conversation and Jim made a comment that said, nothing is natural. It's all experiential. And I said, wait a minute, pause. I wrote that down and then he elaborated on it. And I said, I got to record. You've got to share this with other attorneys. So we're going to dive into this conversation about nothing is natural. It's all experiential. But what really led into this, I think, was I said, gosh, I love our Zoom coaching calls now. We've been coaching for a while and we always did it on phone for years and years and years. And then the pandemic hits and then Zoom's all the rage. Everybody's doing everything virtual. And we're like, oh, well, we should do our coaching calls on Zoom. What a grand idea.
No
and
kidding. It was sitting there all the time.
Yeah. And it really changed everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Having that face-to-face, I have been, I don't know, surprised, but really pleased at how much more personal and in the room Zoom feels than a phone call. I did plenty of client meetings before by phone or conference line or those sorts of things, and those are adequate. There's no question. We get the information, we make some connections, but that idea of seeing people face-to-face, you can really make stronger connections. And I've just been, like I said, I'm not sure I'm completely surprised by it, but really pleased, continually pleased by how well I feel like it's working for our clients.
Yeah. In the beginning of all this, like you've always done educational events. I love on your website, you talk about education to enrollment. You're involved a coach in Power Core. You're just you're natural in regards to getting on stage, but then adding this technology piece of it. I mean, there's so many moving parts to it. So much could go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So
now I'm nervous. No.
No, you're not. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever seen, I don't even think, even the first one when you're like, all right, what do I do? Like with the PowerPoint and, doing your first workshop, Joanne was having a colossal meltdown. She's like, how's this? It was all new, right? But you guys just showed up and did it.
Yeah. And we were able to see that the roles that we'd established, the system we were using, all that still applied. It was just a different conduit for it and a little unfamiliar, and we needed a little bit of support getting through that, like you said, so we didn't have a meltdown. But no, it turned out the chemistry's the same, the function's the same. It has worked out really well.
And the evolution. So it wasn't natural for you to deliver a workshop, to do client meetings. I mean, all the juking and jiving. I mean, let's be honest. You're a law firm. You're brick and mortar. You used to clients coming in there, signings, witnesses, notaries. I mean, then the pandemic hits and I say, all right, guys, don't cancel your workshop, do it on Zoom. Like, all right, well, what does that mean? We had a couple brainstorming calls. I attended your first workshop with you all. Joanne's managing the phones, all that. And then you're like, all right, let's do it again. Let's do it again. How many virtual workshops have you done this far?
So we're doing virtual workshops. We've done a live one about every month or 3 weeks.
Okay.
And we also have a pre-recorded one, which ends up being usually the last live one.
Yeah.
So we market it 2 ways. One is an evergreen kind of situation where people can just click, and some people that works for them. And I think some people get excited about, oh, Tuesday at 2:00, I have to sit down in front of the computer. I've cleared my schedule. I'm going to watch that thing. And so we don't have really enough in the way of data to know we need to quit doing one and do all of the other. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe it's always a blend. But for right now, they look pretty close, and once we get 8-9 months of data, we can sort of look at it and figure out.
Yeah. And you're experiencing, right? You're paying attention, you're tracking it, you're looking at it, but you're split testing. You're still doing live, and then you're doing the evergreen.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, so you're doing the workshop, first one, couple, and then you start to find your groove, right? You just keep showing up. At first it might be a little robotic and wonky and weird. Like, I've never done all that. Is anybody even listening? Are people out there?
Right.
And then you incorporate these client meetings, and I wanted to bring you on video for multiple reasons, but all right, you do the first one, and it's not natural. You're trying to figure out, you're following how you would typically do it in a conference room and trying to figure out how to do it. I think you had told me, your first one, clients are getting up, making coffee. They're not even paying attention.
When you don't know, because we have deliberately not tried to see the video. I don't want to know what they're doing. I trust everybody sitting with rapt attention. And that's one of the difficulties, is that you and I have a conversation. We see each other. We react to one another. Questions happen naturally. In a room, whether it's a hotel ballroom or the conference room or what have you, community center, that's the sort of interaction you start to strike up with folks at a workshop. And that, to me, was the challenge of, how do you create a similar experience where I'm not getting that feedback back.
Yeah. As you said that, it made me think about something. It's not natural for you, but it's also not natural for the clients either. We're all trying to navigate this water, and so many people will be like, I can't do these Zooms. People don't pay attention. They don't show up. They're not prepared. They're making their breakfast while they don't realize they're on video, and people would say it doesn't work. But you didn't do that. I remember a few calls that we had. You're like, all right, this was a colossal disaster. This would happen. This would happen. And then we're like, and I think we kind of had this breakthrough where it's your job as an expert, just like in the conference room or anywhere else, to train them on how to behave, to set up the stage, to set up the agenda. People will behave how you train them to. So just setting that expectation. It's the same as a meeting in a conference room. It's going to be 1 hour. This is how you show up. This is what you can expect. Here's where it's going to begin, and here's where it's going to end. And then when people are struggling on it, or you notice that they're not paying attention, any way that you would in the conference room, just say, I want to pause, Mr. Smith, and it seems like you're distracted, or whatever it might be. You learned that. You kept experiencing instead of saying these Zooms don't work. The clients don't connect. The clients don't like them. That's what I'm hearing from people. You kept showing up and figuring out a different way to help them as much as you deliver, right?
Yeah. And my experience has been different. I think the clients really like them. they're so convenient. They're, you know, we've got two people working from home, you know, a couple with two professionals. They're both trying to work from home. This enables one in front of their computer, one in front of the other computer. It can be a very natural thing. I've got some clients where, well, I've got a couple, but one I met with last week, she's here in Georgia, he's in Austin, because for work. It was just like us sitting in the conference room, and it made it very easy. And we didn't have to say, oh, well, what's your travel schedule when you get back? And we're able to move forward on it. That part you're talking about was really important for me to learn. Is I realized that I had dropped from the conference room meetings, as well as the workshop, that expectation setting that you're talking about. That here's our process, here's what when you come to the office, this is what you're going, and that's so important for folks. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, then I'm going to do it, then I'm going to tell you what we just did. It can be a really important part of building that relationship. And I had dropped it, and I think I didn't do it consciously, but I think I didn't know. I think when it started out, I was like, well, I'm not really sure what our process is going to look like. And learned pretty quickly through talking it out, our process is the same. I need to do all the same things I did before. I'm setting expectations. Whereas the Zoom thing, I hear, I've got a fantastic client service coordinator, Joanne, and I hear her telling folks, and if you've never done Zoom before, let me know. I'll practice it with you before your meeting with Jim. You know, it's just whatever it takes to sort of bring them in and say, this is how we do it. You're going to be okay. We've had plenty of people do it. That's fine. And if not, and I've had meetings where they can't get on, and we go to the conference line, or meetings where we get on, but the audio doesn't work. We do a phone call while we're doing that, so we can still have the screen share. You just play it the way it lays,
Yeah. And your willingness to just get in there and just keep refining, reframing. I remember that conversation in the beginning. You're like, I don't know what's going on, but something's not right with these Zoom meetings. The clients are appreciating it. They're loving it, but they're not moving forward. They're not taking the necessary action that they told me in the beginning of the meeting that they wanted to plan for their family. And we kind of unpacked it. And it's so simplistic, but that we do just abandon our process. And then you're like, oh my God. Yeah, I completely am abandoning the process, because it's the same as the conference room. And then from there, I think you said that once we had that aha moment, then we really realized how efficient, for example, signing meetings, your signing meetings in the office. Talk to us about how you just experienced with that.
Okay, so what we've done with the signing meetings is we're doing, somebody call them drive-by signings, and they're drive-up signings. We're doing them in the park. We're doing them in the park.
A little different.
Just a slight shift in the way you think about it. No, we're having folks, everybody's worried about the virus, and also folks love their car. So they feel safe. They drive into the parking lot, and I tell them, look, when you come, if it's a warm day, I'm going to have shorts on. But what's going to happen is you're going to pull up into the handicap spot. You're going to call us or text us. We're coming out. We're going to have our masks and gloves on. And I explain why we do that. I say, look, we're doing that not because I believe politically differently than you do, client, whatever that may be. But I say, look, my client base has a lot of folks that are over 80, 85, 90. They're in the high-risk group. I can't afford to be a point of contact for contagion. It's just not, we're not doing it. And when you explain that to folks, it doesn't matter where they sit on the spectrum and whether or not they want to wear a mask or not, they appreciate it. The clients have got a kick out of it. They love it. We come out the door, hey, I've got my shorts on and mask and everything, and Joanne's got the the quarantine box. So what we have done is we have moved our document review, instead of doing that contemporaneously with the signing, sitting at the conference table, we do a short, usually we can get them done in 15, no longer than 45 minutes, Zoom phone call. We walk through the documents. We check for those errors that you might catch at a signing meeting. You know, did we spell Billy's name wrong? Whatever it may be. And that's a great time for clients to, I don't encourage it, but it's a great time for clients to say, you know, we said 15%, but we think 12.5. Okay,
Yeah.
great. 12.5. We can fix that. But that way, what we have prepared is a very shortened and more efficient signing meeting, where they get a clipboard with all the signature pages on it, and everything is tabbed, and our witnesses are there. So it's very easy for them to turn to the pages they have to sign and see that it matches what we talked about in the document review. We've got our witnesses there. Georgia has done, and various states have, their Supreme Courts or bars have come up with some rules that ease the presence requirement for will signings. In Georgia, it's still better for us to be in person, line of sight, within hearing of the witnesses and the will makers. It's just easier and faster. It's better for our clients. But the end of the story is they get a kick out of it. We're all there and they get it done. And so then the clipboards come out of the window into the quarantine box. Joanne lets them sit for a week, scan them, everything's prepared, it's done, you know. So that's good. So we can move on to getting them funding the plan. So, but it's worked out really, really. And we've only been rained on a couple times, and the clients think that's hilarious too. So
oh yeah, again, an experience, right? It's an experience. And you know, as you talk about, all right, I'm going to have my shorts on and coming out in the parking lot, they get to talk about their car. They love their whatever. It reminds me of like, it's more of like a picnic experience versus, you know, way back when I got into estate planning, they would call it an execution meeting. I'm like, who the hell came up with that term?
That's worse than drive-by signing. That's terrible.
And so you're making it an experience, and like you said, the clients love it. I remember when you came, you're like, all right, we got the quarantine. I'm like, I love that. You need to trademark that. You got the quarantine box.
It's what you find out time and again with interaction with clients is it's more important to show up than to show up polished. You know, it's great. You need to seem like you've done it before, that they can trust you, that you're not trying to figure this out as you go. But they appreciate, oh, I've got to move I don't have a strap on mic. I got to move this mic over here. Oh, I got to, where's that darn eraser? You know, all those sorts of things are human, and they relate to that. And the parking lot signings do it. You know, we get there in our tennis shoes. It's super casual day. So, yeah.
And the efficiency, the effectiveness. So I want to talk about, again, going back to it's not natural, it's experiential, because I think just even when you took your mic and you moved it, and some people that maybe are just listening to the audio version versus a video, I highly recommend you go to YouTube and watch this video, because I purposely wanted this podcast on video for the very reason, when you started out this and doing the Zooms, it was you sitting at the computer, taking notes, being very clinical about it. And then you're like,
and I did a couple with the head in the box. I'd do the PowerPoint and my head was just floating like over the slide, right? Yeah.
And then it's like our second Zoom coaching call, and then we show up and you're like, you said something, you're like, oh, let me turn my light on, let me fix my camera, and then you show up with the microphone, and I'm like, what the heck? You're like Johnny Fever over there. Look it up. Look at you. And like you just kept adding and growing, and then you show up with the whiteboard and you got the drawing. And talk to us about that experience for you as well as the client.
Everything I need to know about the whiteboard is that I'd had more than one client say, thank you for the drawing. That really helped. That's all you need to know. You know, it's the kind of thing at the conference room table, it's very easy to pull out a legal pad or a blank piece of paper and say, here's how it works. Because really, the task of estate planning, and some other areas of law as well, is to figure out a way to make something approachable that really is, it's intimidating. I don't want to think about dying. I don't want to think about being disabled. And lawyers, ick, I want to go through like trust. It does what, and all that legalese. So really that's, as you look at how to effectively operate an estate planning practice, a lot of people have found the way is to break it down and make it more approachable. And that's where the drawings come in. So, I've got my little, I've got some ability. And again, it's not a professional news operation, but I got my little app on my
Look at
camera.
that.
I can zoom it a little bit. I reach up and grab the thing, and I can draw. And sometimes I go, oh, that's so messy, you'll never be able to read that. And I have to erase it.
But pull them as you go back to the whiteboard and then pull them. Yeah, there you go. That really, and you said the clients love that, right? When you pull the microphone in, it's almost like you're rolling up your sleeves and you're getting into it with them. Yeah,
and that's it. And just accommodate. Let's get over here and do this, and you draw it up. And then I've just got the easiest way I found to get this information to clients is I've got a scanner app on my phone. Even during the meeting, I'll say, now here, I'm gonna shoot that thing to you, okay? And so I get up and say, now I'm not leaving. I'm just going over here to take a picture, all right? And I take a picture, and while we're talking, I come back.
I love
the phone. The app is so easy. It makes a PDF. I email it. I'll pass it through the chat box or email it to them, and they love it. So, it's a way to break it down into something that's easy. Is it the root cellar? Is it?
Yeah. Look at that.
Is it the little red wagon? What metaphor do you want to use for the trust? What metaphor do you want to talk about estate planning? Whatever connects, we can do that, and we'll talk about it.
You even got that on a cart now. I love it.
I just pull it in. I'm the Carrot Top or Gallagher of estate planning. I'm the prop comic of estate planning. No, I think a lot of folks use.
Well, it's great because look at the evolution. So if you were, just even sitting here and watching the visual, and then you have your red wagon, you have the house. I love in the workshop, even when it all falls out of the wagon, and everything that you're real. You get up in the meeting, in the Zoom meeting, you're like, all right, I'm not leaving. Again, expectation. I'm taking this picture. I'm actually getting my butt out of the chair and moving and taking a picture and getting this to right now. This just came to me like, these little subconscious subliminal messages, because again, another thing that people know about attorneys or professionals that they're working with, they never follow up. They don't go over and beyond. They don't, they get on, do their little dog and pony show. And then, I don't hear from them again. I got to follow up with them. You're right there. You're taking the picture, you're sending it to them in the chat, the email, however you need to get to it. You're going above and beyond. Like you're standing up in the meeting, you're pulling the microphone, you're getting the visual, you're doing whatever you need to do to speak into their listening in a way to make a difference for them versus speaking at them.
That's thank you. But I'll tell you that it's so funny. You talk about attorneys being terrible with follow-up. I don't shoot them the picture and send it to them during the meeting now for them. I do it during the meeting because I'm crappy at follow-up. And if I do it now, it's done. So yes, it is for them, but it's also, I am looking at the next shiny thing. So I have tried to build into our process, or for me, doing things contemporaneous gets it done. I don't have to touch it again. You touch it once, you're done.
Yep. What are some just stream of consciousness tips that you would give to other law firms, attorneys, client services. Boy, I wish we had Joanne here because I know she just from where she
I know.
was at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
I love hearing you even saying, "Oh, if you have trouble with Zoom, just let me get on the call and help you." I mean, at the beginning, she's like, "Zoom, what? What? The clients
Yeah.
are going to hate this. Why are we? How are we going to pull this off?" What are some tips that you would give about just really truly like not anchoring to the story that this doesn't come natural to me. I need to get all this speaker training and, what are all the rules about delivering a presentation, and just being so literal with it, and just getting in, showing up, and just experiencing pivoting, experiencing juking, experience jiving, like
Yeah.
just showing up and doing it.
No, you've already summed it up really well. I found it's more important to be present than to be perfect. Show up. You got to show up. But it doesn't work. Call them on the phone. You know what to. You know how to work a phone.
You'd be amazed at how many people don't.
Well, I guess that's right. But it's the same thing you've always been doing. This is just a small change in the way that you're interacting with people. Some people aren't going to like it as well. Some folks are going to find that it's harder to create a rapport. But I feel like most folks that have been at this a while have had those clients that, estate planning, you've got clients that are shut in or they can't get to your office.
Yeah.
You've had those clients over the years. What did you do then? Well, you still tried to make it a good experience for them. So your clients are human. They don't expect you not to be. And so it's exactly what you outlined, is you try it. And if something goes, it's really important though, to build into your, if not your week, the way you operate your practice is that assessment. Okay, so here's what we've done. How did that work? Okay, now what do we do? So part of that was good. We emulate that. Maybe we tweak the other part. It's also important to make sure you have enough data. I've seen too often, I think it's easy to go, I had a bad experience, I'm changing everything I'm doing. Well, maybe that was a bad experience. It may point to a problem in what you're doing, or it may not, but it's important to sort of unpack it. Are you seeing that problem repeat? Those sorts of things. And no, I don't think anybody's a natural. You've been very, very kind. You said I'm a natural educator and coach and all those things, but not the first. And you even said the first time I got on Zoom, it was totally different than the way I come across now in the webinar.
Yeah.
Even so, if you looked at that thing, I think if somebody other than me looks at that, you don't go, oh, he's really nervous, or it's not coming. If you've ever sang in a choir, if you ever played in a band, you ever done anything in front of people, been in a play, the worst thing you can do when you flub a line or sing a wrong note or play a wrong note is make a face. You just keep going. Nobody else knows. It's perfect in your head. For them, it's an experience that they're having. You're conveying the information. So remember what your purpose is in doing that, is you're conveying that information. And you want it to be perfect, and you want it to be like network TV, but it's just not. It's more like a phone call.
Yeah.
How easy is that? You just talk.
You just talk.
Yeah.
You just show up. You said a few things. Wow. Purposeful. So just anchoring into your purpose, anchoring into being present, being personable and human. And I think if you can anchor to those three things that you just gave us, then that is where you're not worried about being natural. It has nothing to do with skill set. It has absolutely nothing to do with perfection at all. It has everything to do about making an impact and a difference. And you just talk, like you said, for the other person. Here's something I really love about this conversation of just screw the natural and just focus on just showing up and being and experiencing it and learning and just having that 2 millimeter shift. What can we learn from this? What could be better? What worked? What didn't work? What's wonky? Why is this? And asking the questions. What I love about your whole process, what you've done, you're like, something's not right. Something's not right. You kept saying that along, like, okay, we just did a signing meeting. Why something didn't feel right? You got present, and then you would sit down with Joanne or me or what have you and say, all right, walk through what happened. Oh, or totally abandon the process. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's right. And that's even as things are going well, because we talked about what we have talked largely about this today is how there's been this major change in the way and adapting to that major change in doing things. And I'll tell you, we didn't cancel a single workshop. We went from an in-person physical workshop. We had one scheduled, I don't know, March 23rd, maybe, yep. Something like that.
Yep.
And, we canceled our venue and got it up on we contacted everybody who'd registered. The really weird thing was, as things started shutting down, we started to get more reservations for the physical. And we had to tell them, no, we're not, we're going to do Zoom.
Have you watched the news?
But here's the good news too, is that you can feel like things aren't quite right and things are still running better than you expect them to, because our first quarter revenue was good, even with the upset in the way we were doing things. So didn't mean it didn't need tweaking along the way, but it kind of, it would be surprising, I think. Or I would be surprised if you told me last year, you're going to not be able to do anything in person. You're not going to be able to do meetings in person. You're going to have to figure out how to do signage. I would say, okay, well, we're going to have a little first quarter, no. But people get shaken up. There has been a lot going on in the news as things are opening up and people become a little bit unsure about what status quo is going to be. And I've talked to colleagues who are small business bankers and insurance and other areas. They saw the same thing. When things started to open up, our clients tightened up. They listened, but they weren't ready to go forward with anything. So, our first quarter, pretty good. May was a little bit more difficult, but people are getting their feet again, it seems like. So we're just keeping on doing what we're doing and trying to say, all right, if it doesn't feel right, why? What are we not doing that we normally do? Because we know when it feels good, and we know what we're doing. We've done this before. We know how to do this for clients. So
yeah. And I love it when you say about, things kind of tightened up again, because again, going back to just experiencing and being present and anchoring into your purpose. You actually start talking to your referral sources, to your power partners, and saying, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. What are you guys seeing? And you're like, okay, it's not me. I know I'm not abandoning the process. I feel really good on the Zooms, in the client meetings, et cetera. And then you and I had a conversation, and again, being present, and again, experiencing, and then growing and learning and evolving. And I remember we're like, this is what I'm hearing. This one, I'm like, record a video, get on a video and speak into their listening of what you're experiencing. And you did just that. You're like, all right, my morning time is from 9 or 7:30 to 9, where I'm just going to do growth projects. I'm going to record videos. I'm going to do what I can to be visible and to really speak into people's listening. At number one, and then even number two was that even today, before we do the podcast, we're talking about, you go, all right, now I don't know what the heck's happening, because people are writing checks, signing engagement agreements, can't get in here fast enough. Like, all right, time out. Like, you're present to it, and you're not being rigid. Like, this is our process. You're honoring your process while also finding ways to up level it. And what I love that I said, okay, great. when they come in for their meetings or when you hop on the Zoom with them, ask them, like get deeply curious and ask them, I just have to ask, why now?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that's good. Wait, we talk about in the workshop, why not now? I'm like, oh, that's it. So we're banter back and forth. You add your piece to it. And now you're going to get more information so you can speak into the public, because if one person's experiencing it, 5 people are experiencing it, there's 500 that are experiencing it in your community that need to hear this message from you.
I know a guy, one of my networking contacts is a mortgage broker, and he is the most natural video blogger. He's like walking across the parking lot, something occurs to him, and he'll go, hey, I just wanted to tell you, want to talk for a minute about this. And
he's one of those guys.
Yeah, but he puts them up all the, always, and I always feel like, wow, I can't do that. I guess some of my advice is having a Molly, because you take me out of, I'm so focused on how's it running, what I've been doing, how is what I've been doing working. I have a hard time switching to what should I next be doing. And you need a sounding board. I suggest if they can't get you, they should get a Molly. And your spouse is great, but at a certain point, your husband, you've worn him out. Your wife, you've worn her out. That they're
hypothetically,
not,
right?
Yeah, they're not interested. They're not that interested in your business 24/7. They want to talk about something else. So it's important to have sounding boards that can sort of be like, this is what, hey, I saw this. How can you use that idea? What, why don't you do a video on that? I need you to say to me, hey, get on and do a video about that. Of course, I wouldn't have thought of that. Maybe I would have, but not as quickly.
Well, because you didn't have the accountability where I'm like, all right, get it to me by Tuesday, and then we're hopping on a call on Wednesday or whatever it is. I always try to keep really like a tight leash so you don't have this opportunity to talk yourself out of it.
Yep.
Or to worry about, because there was a time, like we can all resonate with this. There was a time where we would talk like, all right, let's do a series of videos. Let's do this, when it's talking about strategic, right? And the big picture. And then you started experiencing the Zoom. It just brings it back home. Just keep freaking showing up. Just show up, get the crappy version out first. Don't worry about what you look like. Don't make it about you. Just do something, stay in action to deliver to your clients, because you can't, I guess an option is crawling in a ball in a fetal position and panicking. I wouldn't recommend that strategy.
What's a way? There's an I could call it early retirement, I suppose.
Forced retirement.
Yeah.
But there was a time when we talked about video and we're like, yeah, and then we made it into a project and we had all these moving pieces to it. What would you say about almost like this, pandemic, and you either got to do it or die?
Yeah. I think very lucky with the folks that are around me and just sort of the attitudes that I had. Our networking group likewise didn't miss a week for our meetings. We went to Zoom. I do a breakfast meeting every Wednesday. It's Power Core is the group. And our particular, I don't know how many didn't, not many, but just sort of the idea, we're going to try this. It may not be perfect, but we're going to show up for each other and continue to do that. So I think that's, I don't know where I was going with that, but
showing up.
Yeah, showing up.
Showing up. You could you imagine if your Power Core team, which you've been with them forever, now you're a coach for Power Core. Can you imagine if they said, you know what, we're going to put this on hold until X occurs? Yeah. I mean, how isolated you all would feel. You would miss out on that opportunity for all the growth and everything that offers to you. And it's the booster shot that you need on Wednesday mornings.
Yep. That's one of the things with networking is important for all the networking reasons. It's also when you're running a small business, an opportunity to get in a room with other folks that are running small businesses. And when do you have a chance to do that during the week? Not very often. So, there's a mental health and support aspect to it, as well as, oh, we'll make a connection. Maybe you'll send me a client. Maybe I can send you a client, So.
Yeah. And I love what you said. When do you ever get the chance to do that during the week? When do you ever get a chance to shoot video? When do you ever get a chance to do a workshop or what? There's never enough time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ever. I mean, you and I've been having conversations about the 5 a.m., 5:15 a.m.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
like,
well,
no, mine's not 5 a.m., mine's 5:15.
it's that's always has been always a part of what we've talked about, is the idea of segmenting your time, making a time template, having very dedicated time for certain things. And, how do you, sometimes how do you trick yourself into claiming time for this activity or that activity? How do you, how do you get proactive instead of feeling like you're always being drawn into what the next thing is? And a lot of it is mindset. And the same thing happens every day. You get to choose how, the same thing can happen during a day to two different people, and how they choose to react to it makes the difference in how they feel when they go home at night.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I just really have got to, I hope our listeners here, attorneys, client service coordinators alike, if you're listening to this and you can't get your attorney to take action and to stop making everything into a massive project, they're sitting in analysis paralysis. And I'm sure, Jim, you can resonate with that, right?
Sure. And we've tried different things, and different things at different times. Weekly meetings, important. Sometimes we've done a quick huddle at the end of the day. Recently, we've gone to sort of more of like a half-hour huddle every morning. One of the things we found was important was we've got associates, paralegals not in the office. Joanne and I aren't in the office as often. How do we get face-to-face time with everybody so nobody feels out in the cold? And so that seems to have really helped. And it's great because everybody has ideas, and luckily everybody seems like they're very comfortable in bringing those up, saying, what if we did this, or what if we did that, or Jim, why don't you stop doing X? It would make us easier on all of us if you stopped doing that, whatever.
Oh, great. Well, what would be one parting word that you would, or tip that you would leave for our listeners in regards to just showing up in experience and not getting so attached to how it was or how you think that it'll land for the client, and just showing up to do that needle moving work?
The first time you did it the way you used to do it was the first time, and you weren't sure then either. You got to do it the first time this way. I mean, we talk about being good at things. You're only good at things you've done multiple times. But remember, there was that first day when you had to show up and do it. This is just another first day. It's just, and that's I guess there are folks out there who are good at everything they try the first time they try it.
Oh,
And isn't that great for them? But,
yeah.
I can't identify.
No.
That's why I think everybody loves the Michael Jordan story so much. In high school, he didn't walk onto the varsity team as a sophomore. That's sort of or as a freshman. I think everybody really identifies with that, because I think that's more representative of our experience as humans. Is you don't walk in being an expert at what you do. You walk in as a novice. The most important thing to do is walk in, though.
Yeah. I love that. I don't know if you know, but you just quoted Brene Brown.
No.
Yeah, she, when you said first times, she recorded when this pandemic started, she launched her podcast called Unlocking Us. And the very first episode she called is called Effin' First Times. And she calls it the triple F. And she talks about, she's published author, spoke on TEDx, been on stages everywhere. Now she's launching a podcast, and she talks about the entire process. And she has her sister there as well. And I would highly recommend anyone go back and listening to that First Times episodes, the first one on Unlocking Us podcast with Brene Brown, and I'll put it in the show notes. And it's fun. You just quoted her word for word of what she said, and she talked about it and that whole experience and what occurred for her of launching. You're like, what? You've spoken at universities, you've been on stages with thousands and tens of thousands of people, and been on every national media show and what have you, and the conversation's phenomenal. So to your point, I love that in closing of just first times. That's beautiful. And you have emulated that for, even today you said, okay, I sent you that video of why didn't Dad tell us about that? And that's amazing conversation that you teach about in your workshops that really resonate with your clients. And you said, yeah, but I feel like I should have done this at the end of it, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, after you recorded it, I'm like, don't re-record it. Just do that piece, then send it, and then we'll edit it, and then we'll splice it. But prior, we would always go to the place of making it into a massive project. Now I got to redo the whole thing. Now I got to find time on my calendar to redo the whole thing. And right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a real, the necessities of having to adapt in a certain way have been a luxury. They've pushed, before you're like, get a webcam, figure out what looks good, all that stuff. I got X, Y, and Z. I got a full list of stuff that needs my attention today. Now it's like, if you don't do that, you can't reach your clients. Let's do that today. It's been, there's been a gift in that. Some people say don't waste a crisis. There are different ways to come at it, but that have to has you'd be surprised at what you can do in a have to situation.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And you're a perfect role model for that of just how you've consistently showed up and didn't make it about perfection, and really just made it about your purpose and being present. That, I think that's a greatest piece of advice, and I really hope all of our listeners take from today, from your episode, is just it's about being present. And if that's your number one job, don't worry about the rest of it.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
All right. I think that's a good stopping point, because we could talk all day long.
Good.
Thank you so much for your time and for your willingness in just last week's conversation where I'm like, oh my God, that's so rich. We got to talk about that. Thank you for scheduling this time and being our guest today. I'm going to put in the show notes how to reach Jim and check out his website, Let's Talk Estate Planning, which I love, 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 love. And it's will be in the show notes. I'll put the Brene Brown link in there, and also look at Jim's workshops that he's doing. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you go back and look at that and use that as a model. If you're still sitting in your office, if you are not online, if you are not visible, if you are not educating your clients in this new way, in this new fashion, and just get the first time out there.
That's good advice.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for your time, Molly. This is great.
Yeah. Until next time, listeners, you could check us out at hiringandempowering.com.